All right, it's time to go live. Happy Thursday, everyone, and welcome to our No Code Ops community live show. So, we're back after the summer break, and it's September. And I don't know about you, but September always felt like a sort of new year to me. So, I whenever the new year comes, I get super excited because I always think, oh, I'm gonna learn something new this year. And there isn't a better way to do that if not by attending these events and like following no code, because literally it's a kind of technology that allows us to just learn a new skill every week. So today in particular, we will have Kody Johnston as a guest speaker, and he will be showing us how to create an app using the Google technology AppSheet in what is something like under 40 minutes, which is super exciting. So without further ado, let's get into our metaverse and meet the others. Here we are. This is our Gather Town space. And this is the events arena where we host these events every Thursday. All right, this is our auditorium. Let's get into the space.
But if I can't answer them, I definitely have a team of experts, which I'll allude to here in a second, where we can get them answered for y'all.
So. Hi, people. I was just getting the YouTube started. So welcome you all to our No Code Ops community show. So excited to have you here, guys. I know we had like, I don't know, 25 people signed up for this, but we're after the summer break, so I'm very impressed that you're here. So today we have our Kody Johnston as our guest speaker, and Kody is a pioneer of citizen development within the healthcare sector, which to me is really interesting because you're probably the first person that I know kind of using no code within the healthcare. So maybe you can give us a little bit more insights on, what it is that you do on your day-to-day job. And then today you will be showing us how to create an app using AppSheet in what is like under 40 minutes, which is another thing that just blows my mind. And I'm really excited to have you here with us today.
Oh, thank you so much, Claudia. Yeah, so I'll just give a quick introduction. My name's Kody. I have been in healthcare. I'm actually a registered nerd by trade. So I don't have many coding skills. I know a little bit of SQL, but HTML, C#, and that type of stuff. I'm your true citizen developer. Like, don't know the coding, but I can solution architect and have a lot of skills when it comes to that for no code applications. So in the day, day to day, I'm pretty much a nurse and an IT personnel mixed into one role in healthcare. And what we're trying to do in the no code landscape is, with all the regulatory and all the compliance aspects that we have to follow in healthcare that are pertinent to healthcare, HIPAA, HIT-Trust compliance, it's really taking no code applications and tailoring them for our company use case and disseminating it just enterprise wide. So the company I work for, we're one of the largest post-acute care, which is like home health providers in America. We have like 10,000 plus employees, 150 plus branches. So fairly large enterprise with fairly large, also unique IT considerations and things that you really have to navigate when you play ball, no code, low code, and citizen development in an enterprise setting. So just to be upfront, I am co-founder of a technology company called Crew Technologies. We were really fortunate before AppSheet was acquired by Google to be the leading technical partner for their North American and South American clientele. And so just to be transparent with that, that was my inception point into no code. And we really focused on Bubble, AppSheet, and a couple other tools in mastering it for large enterprise customers. So some of our clientele is Meta, Amazon, Husqvarna, Roche, really these large enterprises where we're using AppSheet and trying to give them the strategies to leverage it and internally train their own people. I'm certified in the Power Platform as a functional consultant. I'm certified in citizen development with PMI. So those are just the skills. And a little fun fact about me, I love Lord of the Rings and Pokemon. Man, I'm on Rings of Power. Don't ask me what I think about it. That's another metaverse conversation. But avid football fan, and I'm a dad of 3 little kiddos who are my treasures.
So you must absolutely love our metaverse. If you're a Pokemon fan, you must love where we are right now.
Oh, right now, if I had a Pokeball, I'd throw it at Phil. He's right behind me in the metaverse, and I'd try to catch. I'd have to use the Master Ball though. I couldn't use Ultra on him. So.
That's great. And I have a question before you start. So when did you first, because you started off as, a practitioner and a nurse, and when did you start getting acquainted to no code? When was your haha moment where you're like, oh, no code is such a powerful thing, I need to bring it onto the healthcare?
Great question. It was during the time frame after I exited just as a co-owner of the company. When I went back into nursing, I had all that knowledge just naturally that would come with starting a tech company, which is still in existence today. And it was at that point when I entered into the operational management, the quality management of healthcare, where it was rampant regarding healthcare. It was probably about 8 years ago that I was introduced to no code. And as someone that doesn't have the coding experience, that does rely on the flex of no code itself to extend it, was just really amazed with it. So
That's fantastic. Thank you for sharing that. So whenever you're ready, feel free to start your presentation. And just to the folks here, we're just going to have Kody walking us through his slides. I don't know if you've got some slides. I think you said you did. But basically, after our presentation, we're going to have some time left for Q&A. So you can see everyone's got their mics on mute. I really appreciate that. Well done. So just after the presentation, I'll tell you how to use your emojis at the bottom to just raise your hand and ask your questions. But before we get to that, I hope you all enjoy.
Thank you, Claudia. So like I told y'all earlier, I'm going to be moving pretty fast in this app build, and also I want to be transparent. Everything I'm going to do in this is I want you to have honest and transparent understanding of what AppSheet is, and when you're building it, what is it like to actually build in it. Many of y'all on this call, many of y'all that might be watching, y'all are skilled no-code developers, y'all are programmers. So when you approach these low-code tools, depending on what you want to use it as a use case, how you really want to leverage it, I just feel like it's fair for y'all to know upfront what it is actually like to use it. But by the end of this presentation, hopefully you will understand what AppSheet is, why you should consider using it in your personal stack of no-code, low-code tools, and so a simple working example of its capabilities. Just to call out, I put this in the Discord channel. It was a cheat sheet of just a quick reference guide of simple aspects from a technical perspective of what AppSheet can do. Hopefully, y'all can use that for question generation or just a reference point looking back if you choose to use AppSheet going forward. But hopefully that'll help you. And I'm more than happy to talk about what AppSheet can't do in the Q&A whenever we get to that point. So let me stop sharing. Let me figure out the metaverse real quick and get to AppSheet.
Sure.
Okay.
And if anyone's got any questions, like any burning questions throughout the presentation, you can either use the chat at the bottom right of your screen, or, if it's really burning, then please unmute yourselves and ask away.
All right. Sharing the wrong screen. Let me take this over. So just really quickly, want to level set what AppSheet is. Many of y'all understand what it is, but hopefully I can maybe answer any unconscious or burning questions. AppSheet, we're currently in the enterprise setting. Many of y'all know there's a battle for cloud ecosystems. We have Amazon, we have Google, we have Microsoft. Each of them having their own respective known low-code platform. Power Platform being with Microsoft, AppSheet being with Google, and Amazon Honeycomb being with Amazon. AppSheet is Google's enterprise no-code tool that you can extend with low-code for use cases. And really what it's focused on is leveraging simple automation and also AI and machine learning principles that Google owns to make mobile applications that are built on tabular database structures. And that'll be important going forward. Just to cue to y'all something AppSheet can't do, it does not work with like MongoDB, non-SQL, non-tabular database structures, which I haven't met any use cases personally where they're actually doing that for applications. But it's a great tool to extend on any cloud SQL databases. You can even plug in an Airtable table to this and build an app on top of it, whatever it is, to build your custom business applications or whatever use case. With that being said, there's really 3 things I want to touch on as we go into the app. So we're going to jump into the app build. We're going to hit it hard. The use case for the app we're going to build today, I put in the Discord channel as a simple technology vetting app. Ideally, we want to achieve a couple things. We want to do a simple workflow automation that will send me an email whenever a table is added or updated. Put it in an automated form. We can create that into an Excel, PDF, a JSON file, whatever we want it to be. And we also want to create an interactive dashboard feature and create some KPI views while tailoring it for the desktop view as much as possible. So with that use case, we're going to have a form component. There's going to be parent to child relationships in this structure, which I'm going to walk you through here in a second. And we are going to do it hopefully in under 30 minutes, not 40 minutes, but it depends on how much I talk. So I like to talk. But the first thing you need to know whenever we are building an AppSheet app, there's three things I want to touch on. Is you always have to start with your data. AppSheet, because there's two things AppSheet is. It is a data first application and it is a offline first application. So the offline capabilities of any AppSheet app you make, like it doesn't need internet, it doesn't need Wi-Fi, it is baked into AppSheet. And it was one of the core features when Praveen left Microsoft and started AppSheet before it was acquired by Google. It was something that he was really passionate about putting into the tool. So, there's trade-offs when you are developing an offline first application, which we can go into later. But you always need to start with the concept of data normalization whenever you're building your AppSheet app. You want to get into your sheet, you want to get into your SQL, you want to get into your Excel file and make sure the relational keys, the primary, the secondary keys, those, even a grandparent to parent to child relationship are solid whenever you're building your AppSheet app, even before you get into UX and UI principles. Now, on that point, to really touch on the UX UI principle, and you're going to see an example here in a second, AppSheet has taken the stance, for good or for worse, in their no-code platform to take as much of the front-end design out of the equation as possible so that the users can focus on the business problem, creating a solution for it, and building an app that really focuses on just what I said, solving that solution. We'll just keep it simple. So the UX UI, it has pre-made components for you to make and then to tailor, where you can add some UX UI flares to it. But this is something that separates AppSheet from other no-code companies. It's not a drag and drop UX UI feature. And so that's something you need to know out the gate. That's something you're going to have to work with within the confines. Out of the enterprise customers that we service, that is not a big deal to them. I can count a use case on my 5 fingers of where that was the reason that it was a break point to not use AppSheet. But that's just something to consider when you're doing suitability assessments of, is AppSheet the right tool for you to keep in mind regarding the UX and UI. Now, we know Google owns it. Google does some pretty cool material theme designs, so they're only going to improve the application as we go forward. But let's do the layout of the data. So right here, I'm in Google Sheets. If you are using Google Sheets, I'm just using this for speed of example. It's really easy to extend this tool to create an AppSheet app. If you go to the extensions up here, there's an AppSheet button. And when you click on it, all you do is click this create an app, and it's going to auto-populate the app for you. And then it's going to try to intelligently match the data structure you have with the table and column structure in the app for you. So again, because data normalization is so important, I just want to show you what I have. I have a staff sheet, which these are the users of the app. These are going to be account managers for technology audits. We have the technologies that are going to be audited. You can tell I have a CTID, which is a primary key for this field. I have a referential column to the primary key of the staff table. And then just some simple information like an address, a rep number, rep email, the technology name. Bobby Boucher is our rep, so he's totally water boying it up. And then we have some columns over here, which are like some yes, no, and some enum values, which you're going to see me manipulate in the app and then personify in the UX and UI.
I'm gonna break my own rules. I have a burning question.
Yeah.
Can you use the same thing with Airtable, or would you say it works specifically well with Google Sheet?
You can use Excel, Smartsheet, Salesforce, Airtable tables. You can use enterprise-grade business applications, MySQL, PostgreSQL. So long as it is in the cloud, you can even do some OData auth links. As long as it's in the cloud and in a tabular structure, you can pretty much use it with AppSheet.
Cool.
Whatever it is.
Thank you.
Yeah, so absolutely. Now the tech audits, just to show you all this right here, I haven't populated any information in here, and that's intentional because I want you to see in the app what it's like for me to use no data in a table and then actually create it and use the app as the data entry point. We're going to have a couple questions that we answer. Just for time's sake, I'm actually going to trim 2 of these just so we can get to your Q&A. And again, I'm referencing a technology table. I have a parent key to this audit table, or own unique key for this table, and then questions that we're going to use enum buttons for. And then I'm going to do some calculations just so you can see if you're going to use the complex logic capabilities of AppSheet, what that actually looks like. And spoiler alert, guys, it's really just Excel formulas. So if you're a SQL coder, if you're an Excel stud, it's going to be really, really easy for you to extend AppSheet, but you still have to use the best principles of how to do it. And that just comes from experience. All right, so let's go ahead and just create the app. I saved this time and just went ahead and created the app. And what it did is it took me to the AppSheet editor. Now, just to do the lay of the land a little bit, if we look at the left banner column where it says info, data, UX, behavior, and automation, what you can tell is this is where we are going to interact with the editor to create our application. For this working example, we're really going to live in data, UX, and automation. I might give a reference, come back here if we have time for questions, but just get really familiar with this because there's some really cool things in the info section of just the spec of your application whenever you're using relational databases. If I had like 12 tables in here with multiple references with views that I make in this UX UI, it has a kind of a visual ERD diagram that populates for you to see, is my app actually flowing well with the way I'm building it, and just some other cool stuff we'll touch on. For our intents and purposes though, let's get in the data. So like I said earlier, a best practice of AppSheet is every time you create an app, you start with data normalization and you make sure your data is crisp. So it already populated a view for me based on my staff column. If we go to the data structure, you can see that's where I had the most information. We got Bilbo Baggins, Aragorn, Gimli, Gandalf. Gimli's the VP of Orc Slaying. I love Lord of the Rings. So anyways, they're in here whether you like it or not. I'm sorry. But to that point, it's auto-populating that view for me in just the way AppSheet is collecting the data. It's just catching it saying, oh, we think this is what you should do with it. Now, let's go ahead and add our other tables, the technology table I referenced earlier, and then the tech audit table to the app. So if you're in Excel, whatever data source you're into, you're going to need to manually add those tables to the application so that you can then create UX, UI, and automation on those tables. But more importantly than that, you need to add those tables because in this column structure, this is where the magic happens. So if you're an Airtable user, honestly, guys, I have a hypothesis. I've been in Airtable, I've built things in Power Apps, TrackVia, Retool. Those are applications you can think of AppSheet when you think of competitors to AppSheet. If you are an Airtable developer watching this, you are probably an excellent AppSheet developer if you haven't been in the tool. And vice versa, if you're an excellent AppSheet developer, you are probably an incredible Airtable developer in the making. So just a quick hypothesis on that.
Can I ask a quick question on that front?
Yeah.
So what would be, so now the AppSheet works with all these different tools, right? Why would you use AppSheet over something like Glide or Stacker or Software? Like, what's the big value prop specifically for AppSheet?
For sure. So I think for me, it really depends on your use case and who's your customer. And I'm thinking enterprise related things. One of the big perks of Google, and I know this might be laughable as I share it, the security and the performance of AppSheet is incredibly robust compared to other known low-code platforms out there. Because it's integrated into the Google Cloud architecture as well, the way it works with its workflow and its automations. If you are already working for a company and you leverage Google Cloud, Google Workspace, it is a no-brainer for you to leverage AppSheet over other known low-code tools. But for this, to me, AppSheet has more extendability, more integration points, and a little bit more muscle behind it when it comes to leveraging the specific use case you have, and specifically for enterprise clienteles. When you go to an IT department and we're talking about what known low-code applications this company wants to leverage, AppSheet does really well in those conversations. When I sit down with a CIO, like our CIO, and I talk about this stack, what does this company want in its stack? We are going to leverage those things that give us the greatest integration points, and also, security measures to really help us with that. So hopefully that helps a little bit. That might not be the answer you wanted.
And is it, that's so helpful. And then the follow-up question to that, is it like Microsoft, like Power Automate, and that like it's AppSheet's included in a lot of people's cloud packages with Google already, or they have to pay additional for it?
It's already included in the Google Workspace. So now to add extra licenses, and there's a whole enterprise plan right here. So I'll go over licenses later, but the licensing for AppSheet, guys, is really simple. It's $5 for their base feature per user, $10 for their core features, and then the enterprise plans, those get into like the 25, 30, they tailor it out. But it's not like Microsoft where I'm certified in the Power Platform and their licensing is all convoluted. We can just laugh on that. Microsoft even does. But it's so convoluted there, where with AppSheet, it's just really simple.
Cool.
And so that's a perk of that feature of AppSheet as well, from a cost perspective.
Got it. Well, I'm sad I'm going to have to jump a bit early, but I'm going to watch the rest of this recording because this is awesome. Kody, just thanks in advance, man.
Oh, well,
Super
hey,
cool.
Thanks for hopping on, Phil. Thanks for having me, man. Cheers. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do, guys, is we're going to look at our data structure, and we're going to make sure AppSheet is kind of queuing the columns that I have in my sheet what they need to be. So if y'all remember from my Google Worksheet, I have an EID. This is my unique field. And this is actually something that didn't catch. Whenever you have primary fields, you want to go in here and you want to use the unique ID function to automatically create unique identifiers for any row level information that's going on in the tool. So whenever we have new entries, it's going to do that for you. It's kind of like an auto, I can't remember the function in Microsoft, but our account manager name, that's the name of the individual, that's correct. Title's great, email's great, phone, it's incorrect. We need to make this a phone number for use. One of the best things about AppSheet is it's going to use the native hardware for the communication features in the app whenever we get to the UX and the UI. So you can tell what I mean by that. There's an email button over here. It's a quick edit. Whenever we create the app, I can do text message, I can do delete, I can do email, things y'all are probably used to seeing in other tools, honestly, in AppSheet. Department's going to be text, photo, image, that's great. So let's go to the technologies table. All right. So AppSheet correctly created a unique ID field for this because I actually had data in it. Now, the staff, what I'm going to do in this app is I'm going to give the omnipresent ability that whenever we go to a technologies, I'm going to see all the related audits per the staff members that manage that technology. And so we need to create some referential knowledge in here. And what you do is you simply change the column type in AppSheet to ref. You hit the source table that it needs to focus on. That will be staff in this case. Click done. And then we'll keep moving down the list. And what this is going to do is when I get to the UX UI, it's going to really help create a usable application by creating those relationships correctly. Technology name, that's great. Rep name, email, again, phone number. It actually chose number because I have number as a name. Address, date, governance, okay. For this governance column, we're going to make an enum list. Now, in my mind's eye, in this app, I want people to be able to interact with buttons, and I'll actually make this a drop down just for kicks and giggles. But I'm doing that because whenever I create my automation in my email, I want a manager just to approve of this tech audit. They don't have to go back into the app. They can just click the yes button in the email if they're a Gmail user and be able just to approve it right there without wasting time to do multiple clicks. So I'm going to get that view set up a little bit. Okay, level 1, level 2, level 3. I'm not going to allow other values. I'm going to make this a drop down, and the base type for this enum is going to be a text. Sunsetted, yes or no. Now, if I let these columns here, let me go ahead and just create a view for y'all so y'all can see what it's actually doing. Let me focus the technologies table.
I love that it has a UX section available for it, and I really appreciate it being so visual as well, because that's one of the perks of no-code tools, to be like incredibly visual and easily accessible to all. So
yeah.
So far,
So,
so
you know,
good.
you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to pivot and set this card up so y'all can just watch me set up a quick UX UI card. In here. So, you know, if I left this in here, when I switch to the tablet, the mobile view, even the desktop view, AppSheet is responsive by nature. You do nothing to make it responsive. Whatever you build, it's desktop, tablet, you can see what it's like. But let's be real. Does someone want to use that right there? I don't think so. So let's go ahead and start sorting the columns. We're going to sort it by staff date. Yeah, let's do date. Why not? We'll group it by the staff ID that will be responsible for the technology applications. And then I'm going to change the column order to leverage certain columns in here and really change the format of the data and what is viewed the way I want it to be viewed. And I'll just do all other columns. I'm so used to building applications, guys, that I won't even go to the UX. I'll just be in data, and I'm making changes, and I know what it's going to be in the UX, but forgive me for not showing that. So if we went into here and I edited this tool, what you can tell is that the governance dropdown I made, this is what it looks like. So in the data structure, I went to governance, I made level 1, 2, 3. It created the dropdown, and this is what the button interface looks like. But you can tell from the UX and UI component here, if I go back into data, that sunsetted means nothing to the end user. I mean, and maybe to a couple operators it would. So let's give a little bit of color to what the columns need to ask, and just descriptive analysis, if you will, for the data. So I'm going to do this. Level of governance. Say sunsetted. Can y'all see this okay? I'm on a huge screen. I should have asked at the beginning. Is this like a normal, like, is this massive, like super zoomed in?
I think is acceptable. I would say 16 pixel acceptable, but I don't know if it's okay for other people.
Okay, let's fix it.
Yeah, it looks great.
All right.
Yeah, it's good for me too.
Great.
Oh, did I
Just
get a couple
about.
yet? Okay. Suffer me now. Sorry, everybody. Okay. This goes without saying, guys. I'm just simply creating the questions that I want to be represented in the data. Okay, so today functions there. That's great. Now, this is going to be the longest part probably up here, and it's setting up this tech audit. This is going to be the form entry. And I want to show you a couple capabilities in the form where, like, our field service, clientele, manufacturers, suppliers, supply management companies, they really hit these aspects really hard when they're using AppSheet. And they're merging their organizational documentation into a form for usability for their end users. So for CTID, this needs to be a reference column to the technology table because I want them to be linked. We're going to create done. We'll give the audit name. We'll keep that a label right here. And get out of here. Let me make another UX for y'all. So you'll notice I did table last time. I'm going to do form this time. I'm going to target the tech audit table, and I'm just going to name this what I want it to be. We'll call it technology audits. I'll come back and fix this later.
And right now you're working on the data. Is there a way you could do it the other way around, where you just work on the blocks or the UI aspect of it, and the data gets affected, or?
There's not. So because AppSheet is a data application first, the data will always need to be the starting point. And so I'm going to just power through this real quick. So in this form view, just for a use case of this example, what I want to do is there's multiple ways to skin the cat, but I just want to create a column that says choose these options from the buttons to the questions I'm about to make. And the buttons are going to be number values. And we want a total column to calculate the score of these audits for usability purposes and for KPIs that we're going to measure in the application. So when answering the question below, Please choose the best options. I'm going to go ahead and just do so 1 equals, say, not so much. 2 equals somewhat. 3 equals very much. All right, we'll keep it like that. And when I change it, I'm going to make this show column a text type. All right, and so you can tell in the form, it added that text right here, and this is going to cue everyone to use it. Now, for the questions, what I want to do is, again, I want to use the enum feature, and I want to create a couple buttons that these people need to interact with. And the values for this example, guys, are going to be super elementary. Y'all are probably already thinking of the ways you can like use this and extend it. But just for this, we're gonna keep it real and keep it simple. So I'll add that to these columns. And what you can tell is as I'm doing this, it's changing the editor live with me to the right. So if you'll focus on the right, you'll already notice it added the buttons to what I'm doing in this structure right here, or in the column structure in AppSheet. One, two, three. Let's make that a number right here. All right. And then what I'm going to do, oh, you know what? I need to change my label. I think it's giving me an error. Nope. Okay. We're good.
Is everyone following okay so far?
This is, I'll be upfront, this is the part that puts you to sleep the most. It's the data. But again, going back, I want y'all to have an honest representation of what it is like to use AppSheet.
Definitely.
And so that's my goal. Now with this, I'm going to go ahead and just copy and paste some of the, all right, we'll just make up the questions. Will this technology need code to be used? I'm just going to make up questions on the fly. Will there be a high level of integration with legacy systems? Forgive grammar, guys. I am not looking back. I'm sorry. And for this one, does it make Leanne's on my screen, Leanne, happy? We'll just do that right there. All right. So when I save this bad boy, it should change the name of that useless Q1, Q2, and Q3 reference and add the questions that will be in the app right here that you can tell. Now for the total column, again, what I want to do is I want to show y'all what the expressions are like when leveraging this. So the sum, again, it's an Excel-based expression list. If you want to use virtual columns, if you want to extend the data you have, you don't have to. You can keep it as no code as you want. But the moment I get into integrations with other things, you're probably going to be leveraging some formulas, right? Or the moment I want to extend it to Flex, you're going to be using some of this, like select features to filter views, create slices, so on and so forth. So for this one, I'm just going to sum these three columns. I'm going to go to the column. I'm going to be Q1 plus Q2 plus Q3. And let's see what it does. That is not a column. I'm missing a bracket.
The beauty of troubleshooting live.
Oh yeah, y'all gotta see this. Y'all gotta see this. So, because this is what it's like. So it's correct now. So in the expression assistant in AppSheet, guys, this is how it works. It takes all the data, all your stuff, and it'll tell you if it's acceptable or not. Kind of similar to like a debugging tool, so on and so forth. Save that. Okay, so you can tell when I go ahead and just click these buttons, it's auto-calculating the total score for me, and we're making this a little bit usable. For the attachments, that's completely useless. Let's create that an image. And for the risk show, let me go ahead and just show you this real quick. One of the things I love, risk matrix image address, I love about this is that so long as the image is web-based in AppSheet, you can leverage these in your forms and they will only stay in the forms. So it's not going to show in any other documentation. And what it is it extends usability features for you to help the end user make understandable decisions. That might not work. Yeah. To leverage the application. So give me 1 minute. One of the negatives of this, copy link address. I need an image address. Copy image address.
Whoa. There is a lot of code. Would you say AppSheet is no code or low code?
So it is, to me, it's no code from its starting place. But with now, this is where I could rabbit trail in the citizen development, but to leverage a lot of the advanced features of AppSheet and take it where it needs to go, you are going to use some low code components for it. But the best thing about AppSheet that I really enjoy is that it is a great tool that offers use cases for business users that aren't coders like myself. Like, I'm not a coding expert. I know some Excel, I know SQL a little bit. And then it helps people that are pro coders like Fraser on this call, that can go in there and code from the ground up. And so it's the best of both worlds, instead of maybe swinging to one extreme regarding the business application landscape of no and low code development. Like Power Apps, that's thing straight up low code. Like, don't tell me it's no code. I'm certified in it, but it's good. It has its own use cases where I would use it over AppSheet, and then some where I would use AppSheet over the Power Platform. So that's the data. We're done with it, and this is what it looks like. So what we did is we created a tool where I can reference the technology. I can make the tech audit. Leanne's work. We'll do audit name. All right, that's the tech audit ID. Just make that random. And work. Answer it. Boom, boom, boom. Oh, here's the image, the risk matrix I added into it, the signature column. I can attach a file, and then I'll save it in the Act Seams. Now that's the data. So we have our data the way we want it. We have it usable. And now let's go into the UX UI and let's change some stuff around. So you can tell if I make the app, I have 3 buttons down here, and they are ugly. They're useless. So let's go ahead and change that a little bit. AppSheet will have your primary views based on the data, and then it'll have system views where you leverage and extend the UX and UI. Let me go ahead and hide those for now. But for the staff view, I'm going to go ahead and let's get in here. I'm going to add an image for some of these. So I'm going to count these. I'm going to group them by the department they're in. And let's go ahead and count that. There is a photo column that I will add here in a second. And for the primary header, I want it to be their account name. For the secondary, let's go ahead and throw their title in there. And then for the summary column, let's put their phone number. And for the actions that come in this table, I'm going to do a call phone, a send SMS, and we'll keep the delete function there. And now we'll go ahead and change the order of some of these. And so what you can tell, it's completely being reactive to the right. So these are my staff members that work in this department. If I'm on my phone, I can call them straight from the app, use the phone to do it. I can message them using the app's native messaging features, email, so on and so forth. Now let's go to
we started a little bit of a debate in the chat about low code and no code.
Yeah, honestly, in my opinion too, it really is the user as well. Like, I think your perception of knowing low code also is tied to your skills of what you can do to a certain extent.
That's true, because you might be creating something and then you're using code unconsciously, but to you, the perception is, oh, I've made this with no code.
Yeah, but in a sense, like, y'all are probably seeing where no code is in AppSheet and then where low code begins. So the display, let me change some of this icon, something that makes me be reminded of people instead of a list. This one looks good right here. And I'm just going to power through this technology one we've already set up. I'm going to just make that display different. Let's call it computer. Let's look what they have. And for the audits, let's use something that reminds me of a form, actually. Oh, that's ugly. Let's use something else. Let's try book. And so what you can tell is I changed a little bit of these views right down here.
Mm-hmm.
Technologies needs to be. Perfect. All right. And we have the audits. Now I'm going to create a dashboard real quick. And I know we're running out of time, so I'll stop here in a second. I'm going to call this home in the application. We're going to make it a dashboard. It's going to be in the middle. And the entries I want in here is the technologies. And then I'm going to create a map view where we can see all these people, kind of similar to the vendor video I did. That you can create in an interactive dashboard. And you're not limited to 2 views in this sense. You can make multiple views to do process flow, stage gate management in the app, so on and so forth whenever you're making this, just depending on whatever you want it to do. Let's make this a reference column. I'll put it in the menu actually. I'll make our technologies in the menu as well.
That's really cool. So ideally you could create something similar for our community, showing where all our operators are from in the map.
Yep, absolutely. Okay. And let's use the map, and then let's go in here and do technologies. All right, we're going to make it interactive, and we will stop at that case. So, I have 2 homes. Let's get rid of this one. All right. Okay, so I switched some of my views. I have a home button down here. I have a staff and a technology audits. And just for the sake of time, guys, I'm going to set up the automation real quick, just so you can see what that's like in the tool. Save the application. Now, there's a bunch of stuff in UX UI that if I want to make the app dark mode, I could do that this way. I can change the color schema. We can add background images, show logos in the header. Really tailor it. White label it as much as you want it to be, to a certain extent. Now for the automation, this is where like the bot capabilities and also like the actions happen inside the application. So for this, again, what I want to do is I want to make this just cue me as a manager whenever a new audit is made, and then when it's updated, vice versa. So I'll go into the new bot. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create a custom bot. It gives you pre-populated suggestions based on your data, so you don't have to try to figure it out. I'm going to call this send email. When this event runs, I'm going to do, let's do a custom one. I'm going to go over here and I'm going to put adds and updates to data that's changed. You can do schedule-based automations as well. And I'm going to keep everything else as is. We're going to put update/adds. We're going to add a step, and I'm going to do a custom step. Now, this is where a lot of the auto documentation generation capabilities in AppSheet reside. So you'll notice create a file, call a script. If I wanted to use guys like, make and use a webhook, hook up an automation that AppSheet fires and stuff, this is where you do that. You'll see a call a webhook feature right here. But for this one, I'm just going to send an email, and I'm going to use the embedded app view. And if I wanted to create a custom template, I could go in here in the advanced and really, alter how the email is going to be presented, as well as what type of files to attach to it. And so this is great whenever you're storing documentation. If you have a process that needs to be digitized, you just create the automation here, it stores it for you, and it automates everything. So for this one, again, I'm just going to use a embedded app view. We're going to make the tech audit table trigger it. Y'all are going to know my email here in a second, so don't spam me. I'm just going to click save. We will test it out here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you kind of what the finished product is as we have it right now. So I'm going to go into the desktop view. Actually, let me change one thing. Get in here.
Is it possible to publish your apps in the Google Play Store after you're done?
So you can, but let me just pause you right there. That's not something I would do a lot.
Right.
So there's a couple things AppSheet can't do, and one of them is point of sale applications. As a SaaS itself for other use case, putting it on the App Store, you can do it, but it's not something I would advise to do. And a lot of that is because of the offline capabilities of the app, and then the security features, how you leverage that in the app, which I'm not going into right now.
Mm-hmm.
Those are things that kind of limit it from that standpoint. But this is a desktop view. So this is the app we created. We have my views over here, my staff, my technology audit form, my home. If I discard this, the map feature, I zoomed out, just where that address field is. And then the technology table of the technologies that are being audited. So if I go to the home, as you can tell, to me, this is a nice desktop interface, if you're using web applications. From here, I can add new technologies that need to be made, put them to Airborne, type them in right here, do whatever I want to do. Y'all get the picture. For time's sake, I won't do it. But this is a fully functional app that you can now leverage workflow with. Let me test the automation for y'all just to show y'all that it works. Audit score. Save it. And then let's go to my Gmail. And you can tell it is not here. So
Ta-da!
it does, it could be just slow. So, but it would send an email where it populates literally the app view in itself to you. And so it's just a view of that entire form where a manager could see it, and then you just click yes to it. Oh man, that's gonna bug me now to go in here. Okay. But hey, I know I'm running up on time, guys. So
You're good. Don't worry. Don't worry.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
yeah.
I'm trying to stay within the bounds of the time I have. Let me actually see. I want to show y'all the bot real quick. I tested this. Did I spell my name right? Add an update. Go here. Debugging. All right, now I will do it. So let's go refresh this.
So what was the issue there, just for, to help people just in case they're running the same?
So what I did, guys, is I didn't choose the right table for the automation to check if data is actually changed or added.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's the event that triggers the automation. So I was scheduling the staff table and not the tech audit table, which is actually the form that we're completing. So now that I do it, just do another one. Google Cloud. Do this right here. No, it's got to make me unhappy. And then we'll save it. Sync the app. It's all Gucci.
It's the beauty of the live.
There's a lot of steps you'll have to do, like sync an application first, so on and so forth. Oh, I broke it. Anyways, it's broken. We're not gonna. I did that accidentally. So here we go. But I do want to answer what questions you guys have.
Sure. Let's open up to the community. If are you happy with it, Kody?
For the
yeah, should we open up to the community questions? Yeah.
I lost you, Claudia. What did you say?
Are you happy to start with the Q&A? Are you satisfied with your presentation? It was so insightful. It was great. So thank you so much for, providing value to this community by, teaching us all about AppSheet today. I can hear my voice.
Fire away for Q&A.
Why can I hear my voice?
Thanks for the plug, Kody.
Hey man, I thought about you. I watched your make, and I was like, we need to web instructor to make, man.
Yeah, and then in the future, look into N8N. The question I would have about this. So you mentioned data sources that it integrates directly with. Can you touch any REST APIs with this?
Yeah, so for the REST APIs, as I best understand it, AppSheet can send the REST APIs, and so even webhooks, it can leverage them, but what it can't really do is receive one back for it. So using APIs, you can do it from AppSheet and call it, but it's not going to work really the other way around, and that is one limitation with AppSheet. So,
like for data sourcing, you can call a REST API, but you can't have it be the receiving endpoint.
Correct. Yeah.
Because that would be things like if you wanted to display data or build things on like Calendly endpoints or display other data that's not in like a true database that you don't have control over, and you can leverage the REST API. Okay.
Yeah, correct.
Thanks.
Because there's not so many of us here, so feel free to just jump on mic and ask your questions. We don't have to raise our hands or anything. There you go, Fraser.
Hi, my question would be that you've set up, the sequence was inside the data source being Google Sheets. You made up data, and you tried to conform that to a schema model where you have rules for columns, and then you go ahead with that. But now somebody goes back, like me, recklessly, goes into a column which in AppSheet you designated as email, and types in 456. Which they can do in Sheets, Google Sheets. So the validation, how does that get triggered? What goes on?
For sure. So if we went in an email column, I'm trying to remember, ideally the app, it should not let you save the form depending on how you set it. So some of the stuff in the app I went to where you can require information, you can show, you can edit it, you can set up the validations of the column structure to not receive information that does not fit a certain criteria. Now natively, honestly, when I clicked email, I can't remember if I typed in a dummy email or just typed in text. It should trigger that and you not be able to save the form by default. If I tried to put a text field into like a number column, it shouldn't allow that. But there are further validation levels like valid if, even show if capabilities on that data structure that you can.
I'm thinking of the backdoor method. So I'm not using AppSheet. I've got somebody who went into the sheet, the Google Sheet independent, but it's a source of AppSheet.
Sure.
They entered in invalid data to AppSheet specs, but perfectly valid from Google Sheets perspective in the email column. Would that just cause problems, or would it notify me that there's now bad data in the data set? Or is it just, but if you came across it, it just wouldn't work?
No, that's a great question. Just to make sure I understand, Fraser, you're saying like maybe backdoor, you add data that's not the column type structure that you designated in AppSheet. Yes. What is it going to do? It will cause an error in the app. So similar to the error screen you saw when I didn't choose the right data structures, there will be an error in it. And there are ways that you can audit logs in here that I haven't shown you to find where that error is and what you have to do to change that. So now that's a great question, because when we get into like MySQL, Postgres, or all that stuff, you're going to want to scrub that data, for it to.
When you have a database where the schema is enforced by the database itself, then you don't have to worry too much about it, because the schema that AppSheet would use would be the same schema that the database would.
Fraser, let me take that to
in Excel and Google Sheets, so you can enter anything you want anywhere.
Yeah.
And
on private, say Google Sheet, and you don't share it with anybody, no one can see it by restricting access to the sheet itself. And then if you wanted people to write to it, you could have another part of your app sheet be able to let users write to it. You'd force validation on that piece.
Yeah, and exactly. So to Guy's point as well, whenever we get into the security use cases of this, like certain users only seeing row level data, only seeing certain features in the schema, you're going to set that up on the front end to really help that access control to the application, and you should be using it based on the use case of the application.
Sure, but you don't always have control. So for example, a data sheet could be used by multiple applications. Zapier could be sending in data on some, and they're not all aware of each other. So the single source of truth, which is the sheet. Boy, the names are so close, it's hard to keep them.
I know, isn't it ironic?
The data source is a non-guarded source. So you got to be careful. That's all I guess I'm saying.
Can you put in branching, Kody? Like, can you put in if-then branching in the sequence?
On the automation, you can. Yeah. Now it's not like I'll be honest, so virtual chat agents for Power Apps, that is a much better branching methodology compared to like the automation here. But the if formulas, you're really going to leverage that on the column structure of the columns and in the data. That would help the filtering, quote unquote branching, if you will. But that's not necessarily like a no-code component per se, unless you get into that.
Because of like Fraser's point, if you didn't have control over access of the sheet, you may be able to build in some guardrails in the
Well,
app.
no, you'll have control over access of the sheet in this. Like you will set up control. Like this is using company OAuth, company, login stuff. So if I misunderstood Fraser, you can set up control of who has access to the sheet and what is being leveraged. If I misunderstood.
No, you're fine. You're in a enterprise solution, yes, but in a
Very common.
SaaS situation where there's a whole bunch of people running their own ideas through and testing out whether Make or Zapier is going to do something, and stuff gets in the database. You end up with stuff which is a problem.
I thought was going to in your sequence doing some kind of, before you actually hit the actions of the workflow, do validation. Hey, does this text match the right formatting of it? Does it have an @ sign or a .com or whatever? Do some like pre-qualification of your data before it continues into the workflow. Possibly was where I was going with the thought.
Correct. Yeah. And yes.
I'm going to put Lian on the spot. Lian, what did you think of this talk? Did you have any questions for us? Because I'm mindful of time. And, I'm sure these guys here could stay here and talk about this for another hour. But we do have a breakout room, if you guys want, just available for you 24/7. I just wanted to hear Lian's perspective and, see what you thought of it.
No, it's great. I mean, I have my own list of questions, but they're more about like the permissions, extending the assistant module in there, how it compares to Power Apps. Now that you mentioned Power Apps, I'm going to go through that training as well and trying to figure out like which use cases for what. So, I mean, we could chat about it more later.
I want to show y'all something real quick. And guys, I'm not trying to sell y'all, but because y'all are proficient no and low code developers, it's worth showing y'all this at least. We built a training website, we being Crew Technologies. I didn't build this, but guys, if y'all, in a lot of applications, y'all can learn them with your skill and expertise, but it varies depending on the application, what level of resources and training is out there to actually help you learn it quick and not, really get lost in the redundancy. So a lot of y'all's question that is in this, it's answered in a lot of these training. Y'all can come in here, the experts at AppSheet, that's what we are at Crew Technologies. And so there's a lot of other solution architects and developers that y'all can connect with via AppSheet training in the community.
Is that a free training?
Yeah. So there's a free model and then there's a pro model. I should know this more. I'm one of the co-founders, but I don't. But here's the difference. Let me show you the professional one. I just call this out simply because, guys, y'all will learn AppSheet quick with the skills y'all have if you want to leverage training or something like this. So you can get certified. There's one-on-one coaching. And so a lot of our enterprise clientele, we do a lot of this training for them when it comes to AppSheet because they want to empower their own people, rightfully so, with leveraging the tool. So just go there if you have any questions. And Guy, I was looking in the Discord. I posted something in the past that's going to be better than my memory right now regarding your API question. If you go to the AppSheet channel and scroll all the way up, I remember there was a comment I made on the APIs that might be better than what I told you, just to be transparent. So
sure. Thanks.
Yeah.
Great. Do we have any more questions? Guy, are you tempted? I can see you coming on and off your mic.
Just wanted to say it's great to meet and hang out with Leanne. We're connected on LinkedIn, so it's great to meet folks from around the community.
Yeah, hey, likewise.
Likewise.
Definitely, that's what we're here for. Communities gathering all the great people out there. So I appreciate you all for being here, first off, and thank you so much for just bringing your value to our community. I absolutely love it. And I was just saying in my introduction to this event today that September kind of feels like a new year to me all the time, and there isn't a better way than to start the new year by learning a new skill. So you guys allow me to do that here every week in our gather, in our Discord. So it's just fantastic to have you and to have so much talent gather all together. That's all I'm going to say.
And for what it's worth, send any questions you have to me, and I'll get the answers to them if you weren't able to ask. So
sure. All right. Okay. I think we can wrap it up. Thank you so much again for being here, Kody. It was absolutely fantastic. Thank you, Liane, Fraser, Guy, and everyone who attended here or on YouTube today. Next week, we're going to have Rahul Desai talking about rethinking operations in education. So like talking more about the role of an operator and how it starts from, from the bottom, from educations and schools. So yeah, excited for that as well. And I hope to see you guys in our Discord, and yeah, stick around if you want to.
Thanks for suffering me. Y'all are awesome.
Great presentation. Thanks, Kody. Thanks, Claudia.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you.
All right, see
Bye.
you soon. Take care. Bye, everyone. See you next week.